A few years ago I made a video on changing the mains cable on the Platinum Plus, and the irons I was actually working on was the older Platinums, which are generally not repairable, but the cable can be changed. I've been meaning to do a Platinum Plus cable change video for absolutely ages, and decided to do one this weekend. This is the trickiest model to change the mains cable on. There are some pitfalls that you can get into. You can end up just destroying the irons, and we'll go through a few things. First of all, you're going to need the replacement mains cable. All of our replacement mains cables come with EU type plugs, and for some reason just recently I've been getting almost daily inquiries as to why we're a .co.uk website, we're based in the UK, we only sell to the UK, why are we selling cables with EU plugs? Well, the reason is historically GHD always sold their irons in this format with a really good quality adapter, and the reason for that is most of the GHDs, like this Platinum Plus, will work on voltages between 110 volts and 240 volts, so you can actually use these in Europe or overseas. Now if you're going to Europe, rather than use a horrible adapter that this will plug into, and they always move around, they're loose, they're really poorly made usually, and that can damage the irons. And so then they decided some years ago to go cheap and fit moulded UK plugs to all of their equipment. We decided to stick with the original design to help out people who want to use these overseas. So high quality adapter for normal day-to-day use in the UK, a 3 or 5 amp fuse, never a 13 amp fuse into here, and when you're abroad you just unplug that and that can go straight into the wall outlet. So that's why we sell them like that. The adapters are available on the website, and if for some reason you don't particularly want to use an adapter, well, you could simply cut this off and fit a normal UK plug. It's just 2 wires, brown and blue, so live and neutral. Just wire that up as you would any other appliance in the UK. So that is the cable and the adapter out of the way. Tools you will need: you are going to need a way of removing these outer arms. The bits here are just covers that clip on over the actual arm. You might have strong nails and be able to get in there, but this one's on there pretty tight. So what we use here is a 0.1mm stainless steel spudger. You could use feeler gauges, you could use perhaps a razor blade, possibly a screwdriver, but the way to avoid any damage is just to use something like this, and you would literally get it in between the cover and the arm like that, and just prise it back a little bit. Always start at the tip end like so and work your way back. When you get to the back here, you'll find that this bit will not just simply pop off. Again, you don't want to force this off because you will break the plastic clips. There are clips all the way along this cover, and you will definitely break some, there's no question of that, but it doesn't matter. But there are certain ones you do not want to break. So here we are going to get a flat blade of some description into there and just gently lever that off like that. There is a clip here and then either side all the way down, and I've broken at least one clip is broken. You'll normally find a bit of plastic in there. These have probably been apart in the past actually, so maybe I didn't break that. Then put that to one side, spin these over and do the same for the other side. Just gently prise it apart here, and when you get to the end slide that in, just gently bend that up. As I say, it's inevitable that you're going to do some damage. No GHDs were ever meant to be taken apart to be repaired. That's not what GHD ever had in mind, and they certainly don't like companies like mine who save tens of thousands of these irons. You might want to grab a toothbrush or something a little stiffer and just brush off whatever dirt has accumulated, because that will build up and it will stop the cover going back on as neatly as it would have done from brand new. So clean those, put them to one side. Again, you can clean up the arms just with a toothbrush or something similar. The dirt really accumulates in these. So just do that on both sides, you get the idea. Now, at this point, you can remove the inner arm covers, which is basically this piece here and the piece the other side, and for that we just need a normal Phillips screwdriver. There's two screws that just pop out, and then that will lift off. Lift it up at the switch end, this element end, and then slide it out. Be very careful of these contacts on this little piezo buzzer, okay? If they get snapped off or bent down towards the cover, the buzzer isn't going to bleep again. If you have slightly bent that down, you can hold that in place and just gently bend the contacts up. You must hold it in place, because if you don't, it's very fragile at that solder point and you will literally just snap that off, and then you're going to have no sound, no bleeping from the irons. I mean, it's not a major problem, but you want to do it right. Now, at this point, you can see the internals. There's a little silicon piece here that protects the wires, and we're going to hold that and pull it up in a minute to lift the ceramic plate and circuit board out. But for the moment, we are going to take out the other screws, tip them out, lift up here and pull out. Put the screws to one side. Now we can, with your fingers or pliers, just lift that up there, and that will come loose like that. Now if you notice, this is on a flexi print arrangement for the hinge. That flexi print goes right the way around the hinge up onto the other side and is fragile. You've got to be careful. Go to the other side, take that side out. You will find some heat pads. They might fall out, they might stick where they were, but they literally just go in to the arm like that. You can see them there. Okay, now at this point there are some little silicone rubber pieces. Just take them off, it saves them falling out onto the floor, and then you realise you've lost them when you put this back together. Now at this point there are T8 6-point Torx screws to take out. On the old Platinum model that I repaired a few years ago on the video, they are just Phillips screws, but for some reason, I don't know why, they decided to use quite nicely made stainless steel 6-point Torx T8 screws. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, maybe just to make it as hard as possible to repair, no idea. So 6-point T8 Torx, just loosen the screws, take it out, and put them to one side. Now at this point you can see this little piece here will just lift off. Just tip it off whatever you can. That's that. It will only go on one way. You see it's got two holes. Sorry, let me grab that. 3 holes and a little one. That little one hole lines up with the little plastic thing there, so when you put them back together again, it can only go one way around. You can't really get that wrong. Now on the other side there is a metal piece with Captain tape over it, and that will come out by lifting the circuit board up you can see it there, and you can see which way round that goes. Again, important, it only goes one way. And you can just tip the irons over or take it out. I'm going to take it out like this for you so you can see which way round it goes. Notice the Captain tape, and just put that with the other piece and the screws. At this point you can just slide back this piece here, take the arm off, and whilst you're here, notice this has got water on it at some point. The screw that you need to loosen has got some corrosion on it. You could just brush that off with a small Phillips screwdriver. Just loosen this, just a touch, just a turn or two, and we can spin over to the other side. Take out the two screws. Take out the metal pieces. Again, noting the Captain tape and the orientation, and this arm will pull off. Both arms are exactly the same, so no need to worry about which way round they fitted. Don't be tempted to use super glue or any type of glue to hold these pads in place. There's no need, and all that will happen is that the glue will react with the heat and cause more problems over time. Super glue especially is not very good under heated conditions and will give off a sort of white smoky powder almost that will spread over the plastic that it's been exposed to. So we just then undo this screw a couple of turns. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. Slide the plastic back so it's off both sides. Now this inner plastic piece needs to slide out, so just grab it, pinch it both sides and slide. There, it's spring loaded here. These are little springs. This is the hinge part here, and they go into the plastic. Now at this point you will see the arrangement in there. I'll do some close-ups, still videos, and insert that into the video. So you can see the flex print, you can see the rubber. One piece is going to just fall out there, so we'll just poke that out. Now if you get a very small screwdriver, you must not damage this next piece that's going to come out. You see that piece there? I'm just going to gently put the screwdriver in there and ease it out. Very, very important. I'll show you why in a minute. Try not to damage that in any way. That's what it looks like. There's a slotted bit there and sort of a flush bit there. We'll cover what that does in a minute. Now we can get access to the cable and the socket, and you see the little plastic tab on either side here, there, and the other side there. You literally need to squeeze those in and push the socket out here and just slide back like that. Knock off these plastic collets and pull the cable out. And I'm going to be back in a minute. Okay, carrying on with this. Now you could at this stage, if you wanted to, you can just slide that piece out and you can see the arrangements. Complications here are obviously damage to the flexi print, so be careful there. Damage to the socket, they are soldered in place here. Notice that the live and neutral are labelled differently to the colours that you would expect in the UK. It's irrelevant, this is an AC device, so it makes no difference. The colours don't need to match, there's no problems there. Same with this, it doesn't matter which way round this goes, so just bear that in mind and don't panic thinking, well, how do I know which way things have to be, live to live and neutral to neutral and all of that. Don't worry about it. As I was mentioning earlier, this piece must not be be damaged. It has an important task to carry out, and I'll show you what that is in a moment. Actually, I'll show it to you now on another piece. If we slide this back onto a spare one, and let's just fit the cable into the socket, and then we'll grab the two split collets that hold the cable in place. So text to the top here, so GHD will be upright, and actually I've got that round the wrong way. So the switch button will be at the bottom on that board, the socket wires will be on the top one, and you feed that through with the GHD facing upright, and we can pop the cable into there. The plastic goes in on the side, either side, and you will notice then there is a slot. See the little slot on either side here and here. That is what these will slide into. Let's do that again. Split collet on, side to side. Like that. And then the little plastic tabs here and here will slide into the slots either side of the metal bit. Push them in slightly so you can get them in, and then just push until you hear it click. That's it. Now at this point, if you cheated and just reassembled everything and didn't bother with these little fiddly bits, what will happen is you'll be using them, you'll yank them by accident, and this will happen, and suddenly you've got a live terminal exposed, with the dangers that poses. So as I say, it is really important for this piece here, because what that does is goes into here. So it will sit, there is a little square cutout this side, and there's a little square cutout that side, and the two cutouts here that you can see against the white of my gloves, that is where these cables go. So it will have to go in there. So I'm going to clip this in place. Oh, there we go. So that is how that should sit. You see the way it's clipped in both sides. It is extremely fiddly once it's actually, you're working in here. I'll show you how to do it in a minute, but that is the arrangement. And when that is like that, you'll notice that it is stopping these plastic tabs, allowing them to go in. It will not allow them to go in very far, if anything. That stops that being able to be pulled out. Okay, so let's just take that off again. Remove that. And we'll get rid of that. Okay, so at this point, if you had not taken that out any further, you would be back to this situation again with a little bit of socket showing. So here we will just hold the socket. If you've got the grease that you've purchased with this, it is a high voltage contact grease. Do not be chucking anything else in there, just purchase a little splodge of this, and all we would do is just pop a little bit on the end and a little bit on the other piece, and quite often just a little bit onto the plastic here, and I'm talking a tiny amount. Do not overdo that, and do not use any other grease than high voltage contact grease. Sometimes there's enough left in the old socket that you can just hook out with a cotton tip or a thin screwdriver and just smear that onto the new cable, and then just click that into place like so. Pop the split collets back and make sure they go back like that. There should be no gap between the cable and the split collet. Squeeze the sides in and click in place. This is where it gets a bit fiddly. So what I do now, normally now, is turn this over, get the cable down off the edge of the workbench, and normally I would take my glasses off and have a closer look. So we've got the two wires facing here downwards, and now we will try and pop this piece of rubber or silicone back roughly into place. Our glasses will come off, and normally I use a very thin screwdriver just to first tuck it into one of the square holes, and then get it into the other one, and then push the sides down. As I say, it is fiddly, but it must be done properly or you risk pulling that cable out, as I've shown. At this point you can put this piece back in, and it literally just sits on top of the piece you've just put in. So you would then just hold all that in place. Right, so glasses back on. Now the next risk here is all this flexi print has got to be fed back round this hinge, and what happens is it will get caught on the metal. If I can show you, see that metal piece just there, it will try and slots in the flexi print will hook over that, and you won't be able to get this hinge back together again, and the risk is that you will push it hard and you will tear this flexi print. So avoid that. Try and tuck the flexi print down and pull it back in, and then that metal tang goes into the plastic. Spin this over, do exactly the same the other side, and see if there's much. See, there's a lot of tension on that now. If I push that back, I'm going to rip that flexi print. Spin it back over and test it again. No, there's too much tension there. Pull it back a little bit, flat bladed screwdriver into here, and just see the way that flexi print has gone in now. So and I can get in a little bit more, but it's still not quite right. Spin over again, check it again, this side, a little bit of jiggling around, and once you can push that back in without a hell of a lot of pressure. You will need to put a lot of pressure once you've got, you know, like 1/2 millimeter gap here. Once there is a tiny gap there, you will need to press quite hard and do that screw up. Same this side. Press the plastic in, and whilst you're holding it in, do that screw up that is on the top. Now that has gone in pretty well. Sometimes you will end up with a slight gap. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's more of a cosmetic annoyance than anything else. Now at this point you can put these silicone pieces back in. Something else that might happen here is you will knock one of, you might find that on the bench. There's one either side, and what it's protecting is these contacts here. The flexi print is soldered by special equipment in the factory, so you do not want to damage any of that, and this is just helping to protect those contacts with a little bit of support from being torn off, and it just slides on, covers the contacts. Same the other side. That is where they go if you've accidentally knocked one off. Okay, so this side we will now get the silicone piece on. If you can't get it to go under the metal, just get a flat blade and just poke it down just a little bit like that. There we go, and then you will see that it goes in quite neatly. These can often not be quite perfect. You know, this is a floating sort of hinge, so don't expect perfection because of the way it's been designed. That's just how it is. Now at this stage we will go on to, well, I'll try and do it this way first, and then I'll spin it over to actually do it as I would normally. So the arm now hooks, sorry, you've got to get it in like that. I'm not doing it right because I'm not used to doing it. So it slots in here. Okay, the metal tang goes into the slots. Hoping this is showing up. There's two slots that hold that in place. But you've got to make sure that it goes in the other side as well. So it's tucked in the arm this side, and the metal has gone in. Hopefully you can see that there. You can see it's gone under the plastic both sides. Now, next bit, with that held in place, grab one of the two metal pieces here. They're both the same. Notice the Captain tape. Now what has to happen here, it has to go in that way. That slot has to be facing forwards, and you literally, I can hold that out of the way, slide it into place until it goes in. It's very hard into the holes. So you can see it's lined up there. Yeah, and this is why it's so easy to damage this model, because whilst you're doing all of this, everything is being flexed around. Then we grab the little metal plate with that extra small hole there, and then that goes over there like that. Grab the screws, and these are very fiddly to put in. Grab your T8 6-point torque screw and be very careful. Gently, do not cross thread these. If you cross thread it and force it, you will destroy the threads, and you will have a big problem getting the screw in or back out again. So just beware of that. Just a little nip up with the tool, and if we go back to this side, you can see clearly how that's gone in. And then we'll spin it over and go for the other arm. Again, tab has to slot between the plastic bits and into here. And we'll just lever that out of the way and grab the metal piece again. Tuck it into place, spin it over, you can see everything's lined up. The arm might be pulled out slightly, and then this won't line back up again. So push the arm in, and then attempt to pop the metal back in. Small hole, yeah, again, and back over. Two screws. A bit stiffer that one, but not cross-threaded. Again, don't force these, and make sure you have the right tool. If you don't have the right tool, you damage these, it's going to be a nightmare to get them out. They're stainless steel, the thread is fine, and they are going to be a bugger to get out. So we are now going to pop the silicone pieces back in to the plate. Now, you might have left them there originally, but I find it safer just to take these things out, put them to one side, because they're very likely to fall off as you're working on them. You tuck in the ceramic plate at that end, guide the wires in, and then push it all forward until the little plastic piece here lines up with the slot in the circuit board, and the one here also lines up with the slot in the circuit board. Just make sure that silicone piece is back, and then you can grab your arm cover, tuck it in at the back first like that, and then bring it down to the front, and then grab your two small Phillips or Posi-Drive, to be perfectly honest, but it's a number 1 Phillips, so I think it is a Phillips, and grab the other one back in there. So that's that side done, and then we will tuck that element into the front, push down, push these wires down. They need to bend down into the arm. If they're bending up, that's not correct. Push them in and down towards the arm. Push the PCB forward until it lines up with the slots in the PCB. You can see again there. Just make sure the silicon rubber piece is the best position it can be in, and grab the other cover. Again, poke it in at the top under the silicon piece, and then down into onto the arm. Oops, wrong screwdriver. Let's get that out of the way. Right, now I also almost did that automatically. I'll tell you what I was about to do. You might find a little gap just in here. Same here, you might find a little bit of a bigger gap there than you would expect, and all that means is this ceramic plate isn't quite in the right place. So with something grippy, you know, a slightly sweaty hand or a glove, whatever, just pop your hand onto the ceramic plate and push towards the hinge. Yeah, and this side, push towards the hinge, and that will lessen that gap, and that is now in the right position. If you have forgotten the ceramic silicon pieces, this will not be floating around nicely like it is. These are designed to touch at the tip, and when you squeeze them they will close fully, so do not expect them to close flush. I don't think I can even show you that, but let me look up at the light. If you hold them up against the light, you will often find the tips touch first. Perfectly normal, don't panic about that. Once you squeeze them, you see that floating effect, and they are squeezed together. So that would be that. Now I suspect this is a faulty pair, so if I plug these in, they're probably not going to do anything other than flash to start with. But what you would do now is just make sure you've got the 3 or 5 amp fuse into the new plug and the cable, and we're just going to plug them in. What you should get is that white flash and nothing else. There'll be no, and these are a faulty pair of irons, so that's why I got the red flash. But what you would get normally is the white flash, and then they'll do nothing until you press and hold the button down. At this point you would like to replace the covers. Check the covers carefully. These little tabs here, as I said earlier, we've broken some. That one, I think it's on the other one. Actually this one's pretty good, that's got all of them intact. But sometimes what will happen is, say that one will break, and it won't break off, it will just break and it will be touching the side here. But when you try to put these back on, because that is not in the right position, it will stop the cover going on properly. You'll have a gap. So look at every one of these and make sure they are either intact, or if they're bent and touching the side, pick it off. Otherwise this cover will not go on. So this one has got no writing on it, and that needs to go on the switch side arm. And what I do is just line it up carefully, and when it is all lined up I will just literally squeeze like that. You'll often find that it will not click into place there. Hopefully you can see that without some extra force. So close the irons and squeeze, and you'll hear the double click there as both sides went in. Now this one had some broken clips. I think did it have one broken? Yeah, there's one broken. It really doesn't make any difference, but do check for any others that are broken but just hanging on there. Sometimes you'll get a broken piece stuck in one of the corresponding holes, and when these are apart, if there is something stuck in the hole, just poke it out with a screwdriver or something and get the broken plastic piece out. If you don't, it's not going to be a problem, but if you shake the irons you might hear a rattling noise. So same with this one, you just line it up as accurately as possible and squeeze. There we go, and that has gone on perfectly well. Yes, there will be a slight gap all round, that is perfectly normal. That's why we like to clean the dirt off so that goes back on as neatly as possible. This will not be able to be pulled out now, you're nice and safe. At this point in the workshop we would put these through a quick PAT test, portable appliance test. It's not necessary for domestic repairs, but it's something we've done you know, from day one. As I say, not necessary. We do not issue PAT test certificates, there's no need for that, that would be a complete waste of effort and paperwork. If you are having a repair done for a shop, then we would always suggest that you get your own PAT tester to test the irons when they are returned to you. But for normal domestic use customers, and now here's a great example. I have forgotten, you see the way this floats? No problem, listen to this one. That is because the two silicon pieces are sat there. So that is what you can do by mistake. So now we can just pop that arm off again, remove the screws, take the cover off, lift up by the silicon here, pop that over, and you can see where the silicon pieces should have gone. And down at the front here, down with the wires, down with the circuit board, and then slot in, down, first screw in, second screw in. Let me just look at the light. Yeah, now there's an even bigger discrepancy between the tips are touching there, quite a gap at the end, but then squeezing brings them together. So perfectly normal. And then let's just look in case we broke another one. They all seem intact still. Make sure this is in place. If you put it on the wrong place, you're going to snap most of these little tabs. So get it right and squeeze. Didn't go in at the top, so little squeeze at the top. Other side went in fine. So then we are done. So as I said, just to recap, do not neglect to put that in. If you do, you'll be able to pull this cable out, and there is a massive risk of electrocution, obviously. So make sure that it's not damaged when it's taken out, and it is replaced when you are done. So as I said, tools, 0.1mm spudger, no problems with that. We sell them, you can get them Amazon, eBay, wherever. Torques, screwdrivers, you can buy them in kits on eBay or Amazon. Cable from us, adapter from us. So yeah, that's it. That would be a successful repair. On every pair that we repair, we do other work. So if somebody had sent these in to have the cable done, I will be doing other work and other checks as part of the repair service, whether they've only need a cable or not. There's other things we do on these to improve the reliability. Same on the GHD Gold and the Max, and the S4C 242 GHD Original. So there you go, Platinum Plus cable replacement.